the old war chemical industry that made chemicals for the war, for killing people in concentration camps. They moved into agriculture after the war, not wanting to give up their habit of selling chemicals for profits. But they did a very, very good job of making it look like without their chemicals we could not grow food. Pesticides have created more pests, 1,200%. Because only through genetic engineering can we claim patents on seeds. These companies are talking about 5 of them controlling the seed supply in the future. That's what they said. There's this thing of, how can a brown woman in a sari come and challenge us? But when it's illusions of that scale that cause so much harm to the democracy of life on this planet and our food democracy, then I will challenge. Everyone's getting gluten allergies because wheat has been bred in a way that it's expressing too much gluten. We in India have wheats that don't express the gluten. Our ancient wheats don't lead to gluten intolerance. So Monsanto realized there's a huge market. Some figures I've read is every 3rd American has problems with the wheat now. So there's a market. They pick up an Indian wheat variety and say we've invented all its properties, and now we are going to control and monopolize all products made from, or the seed, the grain, and all products made from wheat. I don't know how many of you are aware, because of patents on seed, on GMO seeds, American farmers are spending $10 billion extra for royalty. Because that's the main intention of genetically engineered seeds, to collect a royalty. The UN data has clarified that 70% of the food we eat comes from small farms. In fact, the industrial system is a minority system when it comes to food security. But it is the major system that is causing both the ecological crisis as well as the crisis of democracy. What is a dictatorship? Control of an absolute kind. And look at what's happening to our food system. Seed, the first link in the food system, is being controlled like we've never seen before. It was not controlled before. It was shared. We had public universities breeding seed, and they'd share the seed. This thing called the second green revolution, precision agriculture. One agriculture for the entire world, that's what they're talking about. That future vision is a disaster. That's why we have international law on biosafety. In the US, you don't have such laws because President Bush came back and implemented a principle of substantial equivalence. We are tampering with the very genome of the crop and saying it's the same. Because when it comes to owning the seed through patents, you say, I am the one who's brought something novel in the world, so give me a patent. And they say, okay, this thing you brought into the world that's so novel, can we please look at it and see what impacts it has on the environment, on the pollinators, on the soil organisms? Can we please look at what it does to our health? We are told, no, just like nature made it. We don't have to look, we don't have to see, we don't have to find. And by not doing anything, we declare safety. Now, Europe has safety laws, and they do tests. The first was a test done by the UK government commissioned the top lectin expert of his time, Dr. Arput Putsai, to do tests on GMO crops because the movements were very strong. And he was actually pro-GMO. He didn't expect to find anything different. But he found that the rats he was testing in the 3-month study, their brain had shrunk, their pancreas had expanded, their intestinal walls were damaged, and their immunity system was compromised. So he went to his director and said, this is serious. 3 months of feeding, what will happen to lifelong eating among humans? We must warn the public. So they did a press conference, it went all over the world. Next day there was a call from the United States to Tony Blair. Shut this man, shut this lab. put a gag order. Now, putting a gag order on scientists who are telling us what's really going on at the level of science means not just sowing the seeds of dictatorship, but preparing us for ignorance of what's happening. The next victim was Ignacio Chapela at Berkeley, who did studies on the contamination of the corn in Mexico. His paper was published in Nature, and suddenly there were letters to Nature saying, withdraw this paper. Nature had never experienced this before, so they withdrew the paper. Turns out there's a system called viral marketing. And it was a British journalist who tracked it, where on one computer I can cook up 1,000 names of scientists who don't exist, bombard the journal, and have them panic. There were no scientists complaining to Nature. It was viral marketing. Eric Seralini, most trials are for 3-month feeding. He did a 2-year feeding study. And because he knew what happens, he kept it very quiet, got it published in the Journal for Chemical and Food Toxicology. It was published. Then this viral marketing started. They said, withdraw the paper. They said the rats were too few. He said, my rats were more than the Monsanto number. Wrong species, the same species. This is the one that's used all over the world for lab trials. Anyway, they started putting out saying unscientific, and Dr. Seralini's Wikipedia doesn't talk Dr. Seralini's research. It talks about Seralini affair, like he's some shady scientist cooking up his data. Anyway, when they couldn't get away getting his paper withdrawn because the journal just said, sorry, this is peer-reviewed, it's gone through all the tests, and we are not going to withdraw it, they just changed the editor. A Monsanto man was planted, and he withdrew the study. Seralini published it in another journal, but you can see that the issue of food dictatorship begins with the seed, goes into food, goes into our knowledge systems, goes into how our decisions are made, because governments are being hijacked. I feel very sorry to see the White House, whether it was under Bush or under Obama, only doing what Monsanto asked them to do.